Warning. This video blog or vlog may contain harsh language and opinions that are not necessarily in line with YouTube or its partners or affiliates. YouTube does not openly endorse the content of this vlog. All opinions are expressly those of Ranting Ramsay and do not reflect on the opinions or values of YouTube, its affiliates, or its parent or partner companies.
Greetings, Internet people. RantingRamsay here. How are you all doing today? I can tell by the title that you're probably excited to get into the meat of this, so I'm not even going to beat around the bush and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get right into it. What we're talking about today is the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court has overturned and ruled unconstitutional on California's ban of game sales of violent video games to minors. Score one for right-minded thinking. But before I get into more opinions, obviously I just stated an opinion. Before I get into stating more opinions, I want to go ahead and quote a few of the facts and the actual realities of the situation from the article, which is linked in the description, from everybody's favorite fake news source. I say fake news because they're just so inept. Quite often. Yahoo News is where I got the meat of the information in this article. I'm sure you could turn up just as much relevant information from more credible sources by Googling California game ban overturned, or something to that general effect, and I'm sure you'll find, more than enough information on the subject. But going ahead and saying doing what I said I was going to do, the first quote I have picked comes from the article. It says, "No doubt a state possesses legitimate power to protect children from harm," said Justice Scalia, who wrote the majority opinion, "but that does not include the free-floating power to restrict the ideas to which children may be exposed." Personal opinion, you're damn right. That decision is up to the parents, but we'll get back to that later. Further, unlike depictions of sexual conduct, Scalia said there is no tradition in the United States of restricting children's access to depictions of violence, pointing out that the violence in the original depiction of many popular children's fairy tales like Hansel and Gretel, Cinderella, and Snow White. Now, any of us who have read the original Grimm's fairy tales or been exposed at a young age to the original versions, not the overfluffed Disney versions, even though the Disney versions did include some relative amount of violence. Anyway, the original Grimm's fairy tales versions of these stories are, as I know it's just a coincidence, a turn of a phrase, are extremely grim. There is a lot of violence, a lot of very sadistic things going on in these old school original fucking fairy tales. So I think that's a wonderful point that the Justice makes. And also, for that matter, what about G.I. Joe, a beloved child's toy from the most vehemently popularized in the 80s, but was around since, I want to say, like the early 60s, if not even a little bit earlier than that. Which was a toy meant in its initial release to endear the image of the American soldier in our children and foster the idea that a career in the American military is the only career for a true patriotic, red-blooded American male. What is a career in the military but violence? What were the 80s cartoons of G.I. Joe if not violence? Now, true, the G.I. Joes never actually killed a single member of Cobra, the terrorist faction against which they were engaged in this eternal battle. They never actually killed a single member of Cobra. The only time anyone actually died in G.I. Joes was in the actual movies, and it wasn't even because of something G.I. Joes did. It was because the Cobra Commander was stupid. So, G.I. Joe never actually killed a single opponent, yet they did destroy thousands of BATs, Battle Android Troopers. Yeah, I know, that's part of my childhood, shut up. Anyway, So that's just my way of kind of reinforcing the point that we make, that we've never sheltered our children from violence in the past. In fact, a lot of the toys we hand our male children are centered around the concept of violence. If you walked into a toy store during my childhood, the mid to late 80s, early 90s, there was an entire section of Toys R Us devoted to plastic toy guns. What is a toy gun if not a depiction of violence and getting you to engage in pantomime violence? So, anyway, moving on. There is a dissenting viewpoint offered in the article by Justice Clarence Thomas, why am I not surprised, who dissented from the decision along with Justice Stephen Breyer, said that the majority read something into the First Amendment that wasn't there. Now remember, I didn't mention this yet, but the majority who said that the California game ban is unconstitutional mainly cited the First Amendment in their arguments. So, anyway, quote, the practices and beliefs of the founding generation establish that the freedom of speech as originally understood does not include a right to speak to minors or a right of minors to access speech without going through the minor's parents or guardians, Thomas wrote. It's very surprising to me that the dissenting viewpoint would be the only one that actually brings up the parental role in this whole scenario, because as my longtime watchers know, I feel very strongly about parental responsibility as it pertains to child rearing. The parent should be the strongest influence in the child's life, providing the most direction and guidance. Period. And it's just like I said, it seems very strange to me that in this whole debate is, save for the dissenting viewpoint, the minority viewpoint is an absence of parental responsibility. In my personal opinion, the viewpoint for the ban, or for overturning the ban, should have been saying that it's the parent's responsibility, not the government. I don't understand that it was the dissenting viewpoint that offered the opinion that it was the parent's idea to step, or parent's responsibility to step in. It seems like nobody mentions that it's not the state or the nation that has the right to decide what sort of entertainment is appropriate for one's children. That's why it seems so confusing to me that the dissenting viewpoint that says we should ban the sale of violent video games to minors is the one that's saying it's the parent's responsibility. Aren't you taking the responsibility of the parents away from them by banning the sale? I mean, I understand that's basically saying if you want your child to have this game, then you need to buy it for them. But that doesn't seem like enforcing as much parental responsibility as simply the parents actually paying attention to the interests and activities of their children. It's my opinion that no legitimate basis anywhere in American legislature says the American government has the right to determine the minutia of our child rearing. In other words, if I say it's okay for my fictional, I have no children, for my fictional child to play Call of Duty at the age of 12 or perhaps younger, who the hell is the state or the national government to question my decision as a parent? That seems to be what the dissenting viewpoint is saying, and yet they're still supporting the ban of sale. It's almost like they're saying you're not doing your job, parents. I just really don't understand this. This whole thing just seems really complex at the same time, like just needlessly complicated. I don't understand how this situation really came to be the way that it is, how it got overturned by people saying it's not the government's place, yet never bringing up the idea of parental responsibility. I'm glad that the majority of the Supreme Court sees it the same way that I do when it comes to end result. But they may not have had what I feel are the proper motivations for making their decision, as they did not much more than just cite First Amendment rights. Once again, an issue like this, as I said, comes back to nothing more than parental responsibility. If the parents find the game objectionable, it is up to them to be knowledgeable of what games their child is purchasing and or playing. It is not the job of the government to restrict the availability of the aforementioned games because modern parents are too fucking lazy to monitor the activities of their children. The bottom line is that it's good news that kids in California can now buy whatever game they want. And if their parents are irresponsible and unknowledgeable of what their child is doing, then they're going to get away with anything. And the downside is, adult gamers are going to have to deal with a lot more screaming children from California just raving over the mic as they play a violent video game. But I got to be honest, I support this decision, because I'm in support of anything that places more responsibility on the shoulders of the parents. Because I firmly believe, as I've stated more than once or twice in this video, that it is the responsibility of the parents to determine what content is appropriate or inappropriate for their children. And that state or federal governments have no place in deciding what is appropriate for children to buy when it comes to video games or violent content or whatnot. Now, obviously, you want to get into like child pornography or stuff like that. That's a whole nother fucking ballgame. We're talking about video games or violent movies or stuff like that. So I'm very, very glad to see that the United States Supreme Court has actually made what I feel was a rare, good decision and overturned California's ban of violent video games to minors. So let me know what you think in the comment description. Send me your opinions, your viewpoints. Video responses are always welcome, of course. So let me know what you think about the fact that now a 14-year-old can go into California GameStop and buy a copy of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 or Black Ops or some other equally violent video game. Let me know what you think. I'm RantingRamsay. That is all.
Hey, did you get all that, man?
Douche.